Hey everyone, welcome to the show. I'm with my co-hosts Trevor and Lynda. How you doing, guys?
Doing good. I was
Doing
just
good.
humming along to our little theme song. It's like
Oh,
it's catchy.
it is catchy, isn't it? You can pretend to be the Sasquatch that walks through the woods.
Yes, yes. I imagine myself doing that actually, just walking through the
I
got
knew
my own
that.
theme
I
song
knew
playing
that.
in the
I
background.
was thinking it was you.
Yeah, I suspected that myself.
Being you.
I got the fur on my chest. I'd blend right. It would I don't even need a costume. So
How you doing, Lynda?
I'm doing okay. It's been busy. We've had wind, like really lots of wind, and it's been pretty insane. Like the winds are sort of 90 to 100 kilometers an hour, and of course blew some of the shingles off the roof. So now we have to get that fixed. Welcome to life, cha-ching, cha-ching. Every time you turn around, there's something. The joys of home ownership.
I love the metric system because like you say kilometers, I say kilometers, but tomato. It always sounds so much cooler in kilometers. Because it's like, oh, it's 110 to 120, kilometers, and then I calculate that out to miles per hour, and it's not that big of a deal, So it's like, oh, that's like 40 to 50 miles an hour. It's not a big deal, whatever. But it just sounds so much better,
right? I know. And yet we still do things like, if I'm buying blinds, I have a 60-inch window. So, I mean,
What's up with that?
I do weight and length in the imperial system.
Right.
And very little, except for driving, do I do in the metric system, really. Like, I think driving is really the only thing that I can, or distance, I guess, is kilometers, right?
Yeah.
I know that, 2 kilometers equal a mile. And that was one thing that I would have to remember in the States is like when we would drive through the States, it would say like, 300 miles. And I'd be like 600 freaking kilometers. Jesus. Like we're never getting off of this road.
But it sounds so much closer. It sounds so much closer. It's like, oh, it's 450 kilometers. Oh, no, it's 200 miles.
Yeah. Like you can kind of make it work to what is best for you, I suppose. But like if somebody says that they're 1 point blah blah meters, I'm just like, I think of 1 meter like this, right? So I'm like, oh, you're really short. Wow.
Yeah.
So to me, that's how I look at, or if they say I'm, I don't know, 70 kilograms or 50 kilograms or whatever, I'm like,
the hell is that?
Like, how are you so tiny? Like you're tiny.
I would exactly. I would think that would be like, I weigh 100 kilos, and I'm like,
100 kilos is like
220 pounds. What? You fat turd. It's, I think, you got to turn it so it works for you, right? But it's funny because we got those 2 measurement systems, and then I was just thinking, it's like, how many more can we get? And I don't know if you ever watched like boxing or MMA and stuff like that, and they give or is it boxing, MMA, maybe weightlifting, but they give the competitors weights in stones.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, like the European type of
What's up with that? I was like, hey, like we don't have enough problems figuring out metric and imperial. Let's throw this thing in.
No, we got to add stones in there.
Grief.
I know.
I mean, how many pebbles make a stone? And how many grits make a pebble? I don't know what it is.
I don't know either. Bloody confusing.
So confusing.
But for our show, we're going to be moving out lots of pebbles and stones out of our area because we're talking about spring cleaning and paranormal spring cleaning, to be exact. So that's going to be, I think that's going to be lots of fun. So we're going to be talking about like maybe possibly cleansing the house, what it takes, what we should do. Maybe you need to, I think one of the things that you had brought up, Lynda, I like that, cleanse your team out, right? Or somebody brought this up the other day, and it doesn't have to do, it might have to do with, more of the team, but they were saying like your work area, right? Cleaning out the work area. And that can include people as well as not just, clutter, right? Because what this does is we all know that when you're in of like a hoarding situation, for instance, or a lot of junk and clutter and all of that, that can actually create a lot of negative energies around you, and it's not a bad idea to cleanse that out. And we all know that with people, when you have that negative nanny or Nelly that comes in, right? And they're like, okay, go. There's the door. There's the door. Sometimes you just gotta give them a kick out the door. And off they go. You wish them well, right? And
I wish I knew. I wish I had the video, and if I could remember what it was. But I saw this really great video that gave the perfect analogy to that. And it had this gal, and she was in this house. This house was immaculate. She had a lot of white furniture and white carpet and stuff like that. It was, just very, very pretty, very pristine. And then somebody knocks at the door, and she lets them in, and they're tracking just this black goo across the carpet. Everywhere they sit, they're just leaving smears of black stuff. And these other people, same thing, just bringing in all this gunk with them. They put a movie in the VCR, and it starts oozing black gunk when it's coming out. God. Things like that. I mean, it was, it was a really
good extreme.
Yeah, it was a very good analogy though about exactly what you're saying. It's like we bring so much in. And pretty soon, I mean, our spirits, our well-being, we're getting cluttered with a lot of negative junk. And in the paranormal world, negative things attract negative things. So I mean, it's if we have that negative vibration, or we have those those down feelings, those negative, just so much, that's where people, I think, start having problems with these spirits that they'll start to move in, because they hone in on that, and they feed off of that negativity. So really, really interesting.
Yeah, that's
it's very, very true. And especially around, when we're taking a look into particular holidays, or maybe even seasonal changes, especially, right? Is because, we all hear about seasonal depression or Christmas depression or whatever it is that we want to call it. But there's a lot of truth behind it. And a lot of times, it really does have to do with the fact that, we just really need to do a good cleansing, whether it's on ourselves, our personal bodies, or, things that are going on around us, simply because of the fact that we get into a funk, or we get into maybe that particular season brings up negative memories or whatever it is. And I think a lot of times, especially around this time of year with the spring, even though we should be in a place where we're, skipping through the tulips and jumping for joy and all of this stuff, right?
I'm trying to imagine myself skipping and what that would look like.
Too funny. Sorry. I feel like an episode of the Carol Burnett show, when they always can never stop laughing. They're always giggling in the background. This time of year, people are seeing other people getting married, planning for weddings, falling in love, going on vacations, whatever it is, right? Or beach bodies, that can bring about a whole new whirlwind of bullshit.
Beach body,
yeah, exactly, right? But that, around this time of year, it can bring in all kinds of different energy, and that while everybody around you might be happy and like I said, skipping through the tulips, maybe some people aren't, or maybe some people are stuck in a place where they're not feeling all of that positive or all of that happy, and things are just really tough for them. But and again, like you said, we want to be in a place where we're super careful with that energy, because we don't want to bring more into the home or more into around ourselves either.
Yeah, that's true. And spring too, when you think about it, in the spring, it's a lot brighter for longer. So you're opening up the curtains, you're opening up the windows. And let's face it, when it's wintertime and all those curtains are closed, you don't see the dust. And when you light candles, you don't see the dust. It looks all pretty. But when you open up those blinds and you see all the dust and the dirt in the corners, and it's time to spring clean. I mean, it totally is. And it can be depressing because you realize how much work you have to do, because spring cleaning is a lot of work. But when it's done, you feel so much better about things. And it's interesting because I had brought out my equipment the other day, and I have it in this big, huge bag with wheels and stuff. And it was all kind of thrown in there after the last investigation. And I thought, I have to feng shui my equipment bag. And honestly, it's exactly what I needed to do. I needed to open it up, take everything out, make sure it was clean, make sure everything was in the right place, make sure that you can find it on an investigation. So there's a lot that you have to kind of look at and decide. There's a lot of decisions when you're spring cleaning. And yeah, it could be
What do I keep and what do I toss?
Exactly.
So,
What's
let's
That could
working
be
for
really
you?
cool, too.
huh?
But the great thing about spring, and this is kind of why this topic kind of came up, right? Is, like we talked about it, we're kind of getting out of that winter funk, where everything's just kind of dark and it's cold, and everybody's kind of got that depression because you haven't seen the sun in a while, and I was just thinking about this too, because I just got off my work shift, and yesterday, I mean, we went from having like 3 or 4 days ago, we were having like snow mixed rain. And then the next day we had thunderstorms and hail. And then yesterday it was 80 degrees, and sunny. And we're like, wow, this is great. And people were just out, and soaking up the sun, and so, spring is kind of that sign of new beginnings, right? The birds are hatching and things like that. And so it's just a really good time. I think there's a lot of positive energy out there to try to take advantage of that and start kind of doing like Lynda was saying, opening up those curtains, doing a self-assessment, of where you're at, where are you at spiritually, where are you at mentally, what's the condition of your home, and what can you do to make yourself feel better, right? So we don't have those negative energies and things like that in our home and in ourselves. So
Absolutely. So here's a question. What would you guys recommend would be the first thing that you would do in regards to, let's say, a paranormal spring cleaning? What would you suggest first?
I would suggest the first thing I'm going to do is go skipping through tulips. and
You got to put on that real creepy song, with the ukulele going.
a creepy ukulele song?
Yeah,
Is there
skipping through the tulips song.
Oh,
From what's it from? Oh, Insidious. Maybe Insidious.
Okay.
Do you don't remember that? Let me see if I
don't
can
remember the ukulele. You have to create it up. Yeah. No, I think the first thing you got to do, from a power, it's got to start with yourself. You got to start with your own self, because it's like that old adage, you can't fix. What does it say? You can't. How's it go? The Bible, you can't cast the beam out of your neighbor's eye till you cast the mote out of your own, or however that saying goes. You can't fix something else until you fix yourself.
Here you go.
That's what I'm trying.
Just wait.
So, we got it.
Just wait. Oh, it's tiptoe through the tulips.
I got it.
Yeah. Tiny Tim.
Yeah,
Tiny
Tim.
I'm pretty
So
sure that was in an episode.
at the same time, and I'm sure that will clear out all kinds of.
I'm gonna record that with Peter over in Gooding. We're gonna do that. So I'm pretty sure I can find some tulips over there.
Yeah. Oops. I think Cody's banjo is maybe it's a banjo. I thought it was a ukulele. I could have sworn he had a little tiny ukulele. but maybe I'm wrong.
It was
Maybe I'm
probably ukulele. I don't. Yeah, I'll have to look it up. But yeah,
Yeah.
I've heard that one. That is.
You need the banjo from Deliverance. That's probably what he's talking
Oh
about.
That's what I was
maybe,
thinking.
yeah,
Initially, too.
It's sad that I know that off by heart.
Right.
So, yeah, I think taking kind of taking an introspective look, just at your overall well-being, and doing a truthful assessment of yourself. It's kind of looking, the man in the mirror type thing where you're looking at yourself. It's like, okay, how am I doing? What do I need to fix here? And it's not always an easy thing to do. It's not I think we lie to ourselves more than we lie to anybody else, about how we're actually doing. But there are some easy tips and tricks that you can do to kind of just start to kind of cleanse your own soul, your own spirit. I had a time that I was having a lot of trouble. I was in a very, very dark space. And I got some help from a friend of mine she does spiritual healing, and at the time I was like, this is just silliness, because like the first thing she did when I went and saw her is she had this big glass bowl, and she told me that it had sand from a beach, and it had some river rock, and it had some farming topsoil, it had some forest soil, all these different types from different parts of the country in there. She goes, you want to stick your hands in my dirt? And I was like, not really. And she goes, no, go ahead. Right. And basically, so what we started with was called grounding. And it's a really, really simple trick. And honestly, I tell you, I went ahead and I did it. I stuck my fingers in the bowl and just kind of and it was interesting how soothing it was. It was very calming. And so it's like if you go to a lake or go to a river, or even if you go out in your own yard, take your shoes off, take your socks off, get your feet in the dirt. And it's called grounding. And it kind of just, it's really weird because, I mean, we are made up of the same elements that the earth is, I mean, that's part of who we are. We are made up of the earth elements, and it's kind of just connecting us back to our roots, so to speak. And it's just a real way, a really interesting way just to kind of calm your thinking and just kind of ground yourself. So if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, 100%. Grounding is really super important, especially when you start any sort of cleansing ritual or, basically even a spiritual ritual to some degree. Even we used to even ground ourselves before we went into, doing a paranormal investigation. It's just allowing yourself to stay connected so that you don't, really get lost in the, to some degree, the ether, right? Like you don't want to get into that place where you're not feeling strong within yourself. And that really, like, I think that's a good method. Like, I'm sure it probably helped to some degree. Like,
oh yeah, it was, and it kind of helped set me up for the rest of, the things that she was showing me and the things that she was seeing. Because I mean, we started, I'm a paranormal investigator. I'm pretty open to most things, but there's still things I find weird, and then I'm just kind of like, all right, this is just kind of voodoo hocus pocus. Because she starts getting into the whole aligning of the chakras and body energy and things like that. I'm like, what the heck? Whatever, However, I can't argue with the results. So, what's weird to some people is perfectly normal and makes complete sense to others. The more that I kind of researched it and looked at it, how we can, it's interesting how everything kind of parallels and we call it one thing and somebody calls it another thing, but it's really the same
method or the same idea.
It's just it's a different terminology that people are using, and I find that pretty fascinating as well.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I find, you know, I mean, I personally do a lot of saging, you know, in my own home. But that's, you know, that's for me. And, you know, the thing is that you always hear these superstitions, or you hear these legends, or you hear these mythologies, or whatever, you know, it is. And I think a lot of people get really lost in a lot of that, you know, the thoughts or whatever it is that other people are bringing towards them, right? And
Mhm.
and so, especially when it comes to saging or cleansing or whatever, right? And I mean, we've talked about this before, where we always find it's going to be the strongest to cleanse your own home, or at least be a part of the ritual. If you are bringing somebody into the home to cleanse it, at least be a very strong participant in it, rather than just leaving it to somebody else, because this is your home. You want to take ownership of it, whether it's an apartment, whether you're renting, whether it's a camper trailer, who cares? It doesn't matter. It's your space for while you're in there, and you're the one that's living within that space. And one of the things that I always hear is, like, especially when it comes to sage or saging, and whether it's sweetgrass, or whether it's sage, or whether it's this, or whether it's that, oh, it's got to come from, you know, this person. It's got to be only through a native, you know, Canadian. It's got to be this. It's got to be that. You know, you got to jump 2 steps forward and 2 steps back. It's got to be gifted. It's got to be not gifted. It's got none of that shit matters. And I'm probably going to be by a few people that strongly believe in these rituals, but I'm telling you, it doesn't matter. The whole thing is going to be the intention. And even with the grounding, even with whatever it is, the main thing that is going to be the most important is the intention that you're bringing into your own personal space. And if your
Mhm.
intention is, you know, to feel good, and to feel strong, and to feel, you know, whole and abundant within your own house, this is what exactly you want to bring in. And I feel like the one thing that I is really super important is your words, along with your intentions. And so a lot of people, like, we've seen a lot of people that will do cleansings, or, you know, whether it's a personal cleansing, like within their body, or maybe it's their space or something, and they'll say the wrong words. And that's the only thing that I'm like, watch the words. Like, when it comes to the wrong things possibly doing, it's the wording. And a lot of people say, oh, I'm getting rid of negative energy, and I'm doing this, and no more ghosts, and no more blah blah, and they'll give this big list of all these negatives of what they don't want in their home. But through the law of attraction, you've literally just opened the fucking door. And they're all gonna come in, because this is what you're sending out there, right? You're going to be in this
Mhm.
place where you're actually inviting this into your home. So what you want to do is, you want to be in a place where, one of the things that I always say is, only peace, love, and prosperity are allowed to enter this space. That's it. That's all you need to do, because you're literally hitting all of the things that you want within your personal being. You don't need to add anything else. You don't need to add money. You don't need to add, you know, whatever it is, because peace, love, and prosperity hit all of the goals of
Mhm.
most people. 99% of the planet, let's just say that, because have other nefarious goals. But a good portion of the planet is running on the peace, love, and prosperity. And the interesting thing is that when you claim that you only want peace, love, and prosperity within your home, you will actually really start seeing that. And that includes people coming to your door. And you'll find that the ones that don't have that intention for you, they start to get real jittery. They start to get real, like, I don't feel comfortable. And they might try and blame you for that uncomfortableness, you know, especially if it's a family member, like your mother-in-law or whatever. You know what I mean? But they might try to, you know, place that on you. Oh, I don't feel comfortable here. But the actual, what is happening is that you've asked for peace, love, and prosperity. They're not bringing you peace, right? They're coming to your home for a purpose other than peace. I actually had that happen one time. I had done a cleansing, and it was interesting, because I had a roommate at the time, and I hadn't told them about, you know, me doing this cleansing. and he had invited one of his friends over, and I guess she got real jittery and, you know, whatever, and took off. And she's like, I just don't feel comfortable here. I think Kathy doesn't like me, which I didn't, you know, because she was just a mean type of human being. But, you know, I wasn't even around. So, and that wouldn't have had any bearing on it. Anyway, I mentioned it to a little bit later. I said, oh, by the way, I did a saging, you know, so if you smell something, you know, a little off in the house, that's what it is. It's just the sage. And he goes, you know, it's really interesting. He goes, what does that do? And I said, well, it really cleanses out negative energy. And I explained to him about this person, or about people that might not feel comfortable, you know, and he's like, oh, so and so came over, and you know what? She couldn't stay. She had to leave. She didn't feel comfortable. And I'm like, well, maybe that's a sign that, you know, it was really working, because that's usually what happens, is they don't feel comfortable being in your home. And I found that to be really interesting, right? But again, you've got to have the right intention. You're not trying to kick out a particular person. It's the same with cleansing out spirits. You're not cleansing out the spirits, because there are some really good spirits that are there for our protection, to help us, to guide us, you know, whatever reason it is. But when you say peace, love, and prosperity, the only ones that are going to be able to physically stay are the ones that are bringing a positive energy to them. The negative ones will automatically cleanse themselves out. So we don't need to say negative energies, simply because of the fact that they're already going to go. They're not going to be able to stay within the house. It pushes them out. So peace, love, and prosperity comes in.
Yeah. And you also have to say, anything that's not of the light is not welcome. And when you are cleansing your environments, even if you don't believe that you have anything negative in your home, when you cleanse, and you do this in the springtime, do this whenever, I mean, we always open up the windows. And what I always do is I go around the house and I shake up the energy, because, you know, your windows have been closed, winter time, right? That it's that recirculation of all of that air, and whatever's come in with you is there, and it's recirculating, and it doesn't feel good. So what you need to do, you open up all the windows and you make noise. So you can ring bells, you can use your singing bowl, right? You can use your shakers that you got in Cuba. You can do whatever it takes. Play some music, some really uplifting music, but make noise and cleanse that environment, and say out loud that anything that is negative is not welcome. Only
no, you don't want to say that. No,
you can.
You can, but I wouldn't recommend it.
But you have to say, right after you do, you have to say, only those of the light are welcome here. So often people do need to say that, because they need to acknowledge that they've been living through hell. And you can, but you have to say directly after that, only spirits of the light are allowed in my environment, and everything else, you just need to go ring those bells, use that singing bowl, and play that music just to stir up the energy, because it needs to go. Energy has to go somewhere. And in the springtime, open up all those windows, get that great air in, and only of the light. So, and people are afraid, because when they cleanse their environment, they're afraid that maybe their dad who passed, they're not going to be welcome anymore, or, you know, their mom or their uncle or their brother. And that is not true, especially if you say only those of the light are allowed in my environment, right?
Or the peace, love, people, the spirits that are there to actually comfort us and to help us and to love us and to give us, you know, let us know that they're still watching out for us for shit.
Yes.
Because I love both of these points, you know, because I was kind of thinking the same thing. We go back to, you know, the paranormal law of attraction, where it's kind of the opposite of magnetism, where the opposites attract. When you have negative, when you are, you know, you have negativity in your home, negativity in your being, it's going to attract negative energy. At the same time, if you are moving towards that positive direction, or you're filling your home with light, it's going to force out the negative automatically. It's going to push things away. If you put light all over your house, the shadows start to disappear, and that's huge. Really, really good advice. And it doesn't have to be. The cool thing about it, and it really comes down to your personal preference. We have clients that want to get rid of what they perceive as negative spirits or spirits that are bothering them. And I don't have a grand ritual that I perform. I just do it. If they want me to, and I'll just say, hey, you're not welcome here. You're done. You need to go. And it's the intention.
Yeah.
It is that. It's interesting because we all call it different things. It's a mindset. It's the intention. It's faith that you are in control, that you are the boss, that you own the place. You're in charge. They are not. Right. And it's a mind game. It really, really is a mind game. And I tell a lot of times that a lot of the spirits that we deal with act like kindergartners, and we tell them no, and then they throw a fit and they get all upset about it. And then we were like, oh, we're sorry. Oh, it's okay. No, you stick your ground and you say, no, it's not okay. Don't do it again. Stick your ground, but if you are not in a good spot spiritually yourself, it won't work. So you've got to start with yourself. You got to start with yourself and get yourself right before you can really control your environment like that. Sure. So
that's so true. That's so true. I agree.
So
with that.
kind of one of the things that I learned about, and I don't know if either of you have ever heard of this terminology of cording, like somebody plugging in a cord, right? Yes. So this gal that helped me talked a lot about cording, and this happens a lot to people who are who have that really high vibration energy that they're very, people are attracted to these people, and they tend to lay a lot of problems on you, right? They come to you for advice, they come to you for help, they come to you because you've got something that somehow they feel better when they talk to you, and what they're doing is attaching a little spiritual line somewhere on you, and they are drawing energy from you.
Yeah.
Right. And so
another wording would be like energy vampire.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and I think that was a really interesting phenomenon. My daughter, she's a lot like this, where people, and it's so funny to watch because she just, like, random people just come up to her, just start talking to her, and they start telling her their life story, and she's like, I don't know you. Why are you doing this? But it becomes a point where it becomes very taxing. And you'll know this because you will be, and I guarantee, I know Kathy, you've done it, and Lynda, you've experienced, and anybody that's watching the show has been in a situation where they know they're going to see this particular person, and every time you do, when you walk away, you are exhausted. You are just exhausted, and it's because they are leeching that energy off of you. They're that energy vampire, spiritual vampire. So I'm curious to know, I have a method on cleansing this, on fixes. I'm really curious to know what your thoughts are on this.
Yeah, it's happened. I know, Kathy, it's happened to you too, for sure, in what you do.
What's that?
It's happened to you, I'm sure, in what you do for a living, because I can't even imagine all of that, those energy vampires in your life.
Me or Trevor?
No, you.
Oh, yeah. Like, because I mean, this is what you're dealing with all day long. Like, you're doing readings all day long. And I mean, some of these people, their energy is so heavy. And, you have to find a way to just, I don't know, not carry it to the next level with you. And I'm getting a lot better at it now. It used to be really wearing on me, like to the point where I would actually just not work. I just couldn't work because it was so like just too much. And it doesn't mean that I didn't work. I just didn't do this particular, work or whatever it was. Like, I would go like a week without doing it and I would go do something else just to try to make up the income or whatever. But I found that it's been a lot better. I found ways to just kind of cleanse myself, ground myself, as Trevor says, um, and so, even sometimes at the end of the day, what you can sit there and do is kind of like you were saying, Trevor, is the plugged, people that are plugging in, is you just ask for, I mean, for me personally, I always go to Archangel Michael. That's my go-to when it comes to cleansings, clearings, cord cutting, all of that, because he's very good with that. And that's where I automatically, that's who I ask. And I just ask to take a look at me and say, if there's anything that doesn't need to be attached to me, just remove it, energetically, or whatever is not serving me, to remove it at this time. And you do feel a lot lighter. And the thing is that you don't want to be focusing in on it. It's a matter of remembering that their problems are not your issues. Like, just because they're having a problem doesn't mean that it's your issue. Just sort of move forward and keep going. And but I mean, 99% of my readings are probably relationship, readings, right? And so you get, you can get a pretty um blackened view of, of of the dating world or whatever it is. But you got to remember is that it's not, um people don't take responsibility for ourselves, and that creates a lot of issues moving forward. And what we have to do is sometimes you got to stop and say, look, I am taking responsibility for A, B, C, or D, right? I'm taking responsibility. It doesn't mean I have to carry it and moan on it and create a depression about it or anything else. It's the matter of acknowledging it and go, you know what, yeah, I could have behaved better in this particular situation, or maybe I overreacted in this particular situation, or maybe I was a dumbass in this particular whatever it is. Like, it's acknowledging that and going, okay, how could I have solved it better? And sometimes another thing that I suggest to people do is to look at a particular scenario sometimes in a 3D realm. So take yourself out of it and watch the scenario play out. And it allows us to take responsibility without being in a place of taking responsibility, of being like depressed, right? So let's say you had an argument with somebody. Replay the argument, but replay that argument as a third party observer. You might have to replay it a couple of times, right? Because we're always, the thing is, we're always going to be in this place where we're going to make ourselves feel like look better. We all, right? We are like, or if we're that type of person, that's kind of, we give to other people, we might try and make that other person look, or play out a scene that isn't true, where we put ourselves in a lower level than they are. And so when we take that third party step back and we take a look at it, we're observing. We're observing as just a participant in the observation, rather than a participant in the actual energy of what's happening. And again, we might have to play it a couple of times, but it allows us to look at it and go, oh, see right there, I see my body twitching. I see myself starting to overreact. I see whatever it is. I see this person, how they're getting their back up. I can see, like, you know what I mean? You start to really observe things in a different manner. And then you can go, okay. And then you clear it out and just go, you know what? I forgive myself. It was a learning lesson. I learned. Thank you for the learning lesson. I truly appreciate it. Thank you. Let's move on and take the next step forward. And it's amazing how much it can clear out and how much it can really help. Take a look at the different things, especially when it comes to relationships.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
I like it.
You look curious, Lynda.
Well, it's just that, you know what, when you have energy vampires in your life, and they're really wearing you down to the point where you are absolutely exhausted. You're mentally exhausted. You're spiritually exhausted. You know that whatever interaction you have with that person is going to be a really difficult one because they zap everything out of you.
Yeah.
My tendency is to say to myself, I need to distance myself from this
Yeah.
person. I need to withdraw, and often to just cut that out of my life because I have so many more things that I need to accomplish. I cannot be anywhere near that particular energy. And that's what I tend to do is I just cut that cord. And when I do cut the cord, it's amazing how much my life changes. I
Yeah.
regain a lot of that energy. But Trevor, you were saying that you have a way that you deal with this. So I want to know.
Yes. So, and this was particularly interesting to me, given my profession, and been learning a lot about mental health of first responders, and how, this is something I think happens. I think this is a very real thing, that, especially the people who are so willing to give of themselves for the betterment of other people. And it's not anything that other people are doing intentionally. It's just something I think that just happens. And maybe some of them can do it intentionally. I don't know. But the thing about it is anybody that you come in contact with is going to have some sort of effect on you. And maybe you are attaching a cord to them. Maybe it's vice versa. But with first responders, when we go to help people, we are helping people. They are relying on us. They are counting on us. They are definitely attaching cords to us. They're taking in our energy to try to better their
Heal
situation.
themselves. Yeah.
Those cords don't just go away, is what I learned. That they can be there for a long time. They can be there forever. Anyway, the gal that helped me, and because I'm very much a visual. I have to visualize things. I have to be able to see things to make it make sense in my head. And so what she did is she had me kind of ground myself, take some breaths and just kind of calm my thinking, try to clear my mind. And then she goes, I want you to imagine paradise. What is your depiction of a perfect place? And in this perfect place, there's a pool of pristine water. This beautiful, beautiful pool, this pristine water. And see those cords, those dark cords that are attached to you, going off into the ether or whatever. And imagine yourself diving into this pool and start to swim, and this water starts to just cleanse these cords right off your body, And so that's one of the ways that I visualize. And Lynda, you talked about cutting the cords. That was another suggested way of, that direct visualization, that physical cutting of a cord. It's a mind game. It really is a mind game. A lot of times I'll do this if I'm taking a shower. I'll just start thinking about that very thing. I'm in the shower, this pristine water that's just cleansing, not just the grime off my body, but it's the grime off my soul, type thing. So that's the main method that I use to cleanse those leeches and those energy vampires. So and it's worked really, really well for me, and it's actually when you do it the first time, it's kind of weird because you're trying to figure it out, and after you do it a few times, though, it's actually really therapeutic. It's almost like kind of like a meditation, really. It's very calming, and you really feel better. I feel so much better when I do it because I don't feel like perfect, but you can just feel that your energy is starting to come back. It's not just being constantly siphoned. So
that's a really good way to do it. And it's interesting that you say that because, a lot of times people will say, well, out of sight, out of mind. That's not true because even though a person is out of sight, if you've still got that energy cord attached to that person, whatever it happens to be, it's a physical manifestation, you've got to really get that gone. And that's a great way to do that. I like that. I really do.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's absolutely, it's super interesting because, like, I mean, I wasn't aware of any of this, right? You know, I just knew that I was just in a funk, and it was because she was a friend of my wife's, I think, and our kids were friends or something. I didn't even really know her, but she had inquired to my wife about me, even though that she'd only seen me, and she goes, "How's your husband doing?" It's like he just seems he's got a lot of darkness around him right now. You know, there's a lot going on there. You know, why don't you send him my way? You know, so I kind of agreed to go do this thing because, you know, I was like, all right, well, sure, why not? You know, this ought to be interesting with the whole paranormal thing. And and honestly, I was like, I was so skeptical of the whole thing. I was like, this is just hocus pocus, a bunch of voodoo, you know. But it was really interesting.
It's amazing though, like, sorry, I didn't mean to, I was just going to say, it's amazing though, how when you, even if you're looking at it as, like you said, you know, junk science or whatever, you know, or it's amazing how it can help you if you stay open to it. The only, you know, one of the things I would suggest though, and a lot of people dismiss this, and they don't look at this as something that they should really be taking, you know, to heart before they go ahead and do it. Is it sounds like this lady that you went to was very grounded herself, and that's exactly where she needs to be, right? Because when you're doing this work, you got to stay in a grounding energy. But you know, the funny part is that we will take our spiritual souls and pretty much hand them over to somebody who's a fucking mess.
Oh my God, that's so true.
It's
right? Like, no, we like, it's amazing how many times we'll do this. And it's like, you know, I don't know how many times I'll hear from people going, well, I'm seeing this really great person, you know, but they've got some issues going on, so I pay them a little bit more. It's like, I cannot raise a red flag higher or bigger enough and flash it into your face anymore. Like, you know, but we're in, sometimes we get so desperate for help, or we get so desperate for, but you know, to some degree that kind of makes us that energy vampire in that extent, because we're looking for help from anywhere or anything, and we're willing to plug into another human being, you know, for that relief of some sort. But we have to remember, I mean, we're not going to go to somebody, like, we're not going to go to a homeless person, you know, for financial advice. We're not. I mean, you know, or you know, to help us find our new home, or you know, we're not going to go to somebody who has you know, who's never owned a pet for dog advice. It's kind of like going to somebody who's never had kids, you know, to give you, you know, advice on a teenager, or advice on your 10-year-old or whatever. Like, I mean, you just dismiss it, but we will throw our energy and all of that onto somebody who's just whose life is a fucking mess itself. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to swear, but it's so true. And I've seen it over and over and over again. And usually what happens is, you know, that person ends up losing money, you know, or they end up losing a part of themselves, right? Because now they're becoming the helper for the one that's supposed to be helping them. And I've seen that so many times too.
Well, and that happens, and a lot of times that's because that person that's trying to get help from somebody sometimes is they're that higher vibration person. But like we said, that, and it makes total sense now that I'm thinking about it, you know, because you have somebody who's got a lot of negativity in their life, and they are going to naturally gravitate towards somebody else who has negativity in their life because they're vibrating on the same frequency.
Yeah.
And now they're drawing energy from each other, and they're only drawing negative energy. And it's just compounding and getting worse and worse and worse, you know, and that's why we see, I think, you know, a lot of like people who suffer from drug abuse, you know, and addictions and stuff. They surround themselves with people who have the same addiction, you know, and then when they try to get clean, those other people are still leeching off of them, off of that person who's trying to get clean.
And they want them to go back.
Them back. Yeah. So
But
it's yeah,
it's interesting
pretty
too
interesting.
because we get a lot of readers, or we'll get there's a lot of fake accounts out there, that people that will take your account, your picture, and make another account or make a fake account, and then they start messaging people, and they're like, oh, I have a message for you from your great 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 fucking puppy dog or something, and come and get you got to come and get this message right now, and all. And those are the people that usually fall for this.
Mhm.
And because they are in a bad place. They're so desperate that they're thinking, this has to be a sign. This person messaged me. It's got to be a sign. But a good psychic, a good medium, a good intuitive will never contact you, except for maybe like in your case, Trevor. She said, you know what, I'm feeling this. Your husband's willing or up for it, great, send him my way. You know what? But at that point, if you had said, I'm not interested, whatever, she would have left it alone. Like that would have been the
Yeah.
end of it, because
Well, and
she's
my
got a
thing
good
too
end.
is like this is a source of income for her. This is what she does, right?
Yeah.
But she was like, she was very upfront. She goes, I don't want to charge you anything. I just want to
Yeah.
help you,
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. And she goes, and maybe teach you some things. So maybe you might be able to help somebody else,
Yeah.
So like, the whole chakra thing, which I still think is kind of weird, but I kind of understand too, the whole energy thing. But yeah, I really cannot argue with the results.
Yeah.
It was, and because I didn't even know what to expect. Like the whole grounding thing, I had no idea what was going to, I figured my hands were going to get dirty. It's like, I'm playing in dirt. But I mean,
play in the mud for a while.
and it was just like, it was so soothing. It was so weird, and I love that.
Another method actually that is, it's interesting because you talk about the grounding and also the chakras, and there is another, method that people can learn very, very quickly. And it really helps not only ground you, but it also helps all of the chakras to almost, align fairly instantaneously, right? And it helps like pixel. I mean, sometimes, somebody might need a little bit of work on them, and that's, fine. But one of the things I do suggest is imagine, a white light going from the crown all the way through the root system, right? Or your root chakra into the ground itself. Our soles of our feet actually have chakras as well. So you can create that light to go through your soles of your feet as well into the ground, all the way to Gaia, connect to the ground energy. But along the way, what you can imagine is at each chakra starts aligning. So it starts off with the crown, it goes to your third eye, your throat, your heart, your solar plexus, your sacral, and then your root chakra. And I don't unfortunately know the names of the soles of the feet, but basically what you want to do is you're just imagining this light going through each of them and just cleansing out each chakra as it's coming down through the crown. And so as you're doing that, you're basically enlightening all of the chakras, and you're just going right through the mid center. And when you're unbalanced, or you're feeling a little bit of anxiety, or you're feeling stressed at that moment, by placing that thought process from the crown down, it can really help calm you, because you're imagining each chakra. You're imagining each chakra like a light bulb lighting up as that light is coming through it as well. And it's cleansing out all the crap within each chakra in order to clear it and cleanse it and open it up for beautiful new things instead of the old that was weighing it down.
I like that. One thing, when you talk about spring cleaning, and we were talking about all of this, I really feel that I don't think that either the creator or the source or whatever you call that wants us to feel any pain at all. I
Yeah.
believe that, the source, the creator, God, whatever you call it, wants us to be happy, to have no pain, to feel light and wonderful. And I think part of that comes from your gut instincts about so many things. If there is pain, there's something wrong. And you yourself have to listen to you yourself. And so many people don't do that. They really don't do that. And if it doesn't feel right, then you definitely have to find out why. You either have to move things around, stir things up, open up the windows, do some spring cleaning, ask yourself some hard questions sometimes, and sometimes cutting the cord from the external things that are causing you pain. And I think when you talk about a paranormal spring clean, that's part of that whole process. That's really, truly how I feel.
I really love that, actually. I love what you just said, Lynda. I think that was actually really beautiful. The one thing I'm also going to recommend is a lot of people, we tend to take everything, all of our problems, and we shove them into one package instead of dividing them up into little tiny areas. So somebody might be looking at jobs and relationship and this and that, and, you know, and all of that. And then it's like, and then my dog stepped on a bee.
End of the world.
I don't know if you got the whole Amber Heard thing there, but it was just funny. But anyway, but we tend to throw everything into one package instead of dividing it up and going, okay, career-wise, how do I fix my career? How do I do this? What do I need to do to create more money? Okay, we're going to look at that first. You know, how do I do this with my home? Okay, well, let's remove the career. We got to put that into a separate box. Close that box for right now. Let's focus on this. Let's open this box and take a look at it. And how can we fix this? How can we make this different? Okay, good. All right. We got a plan. We got a plan for this. Close up that box. Let's look at relationship. What do I need to do to create a relationship or make my relationship possibly better? Well, I need to stop whining about these other fucking boxes, first of all, right? And maybe get out into the world and actually meet people or whatever it is, you know. And but you're basically looking at now another box. Okay, hey, now I have a plan. Let's go. And we have to take a look at all of these boxes on a periodic level. We can't just because we looked at them last year doesn't mean that what's in that box is not going to fester. Like, we need to take a look at it and clean it and spring clean each box on a regular basis and go, okay, look at, you know what? I you know, ran into some bills. I need to do this. Maybe I need to, you know, create something else. I got to work on this way, and then I got to work this way, and I got to work this way. But what we tend to do is we take all of those boxes and we throw them into one big junk drawer. And that can create a lot of mental stress because we're not just taking one thing at a time. We're looking at all of it. And that in itself can just weigh us down. But we will find that we're so much easier is, you know, and not a bad thing to do is sometimes maybe cleanse ourselves with each issue, right? Do the whole alignment and then take a look at that issue in a brand new light, because now you've cleansed the energy out of that particular issue. Cleanse it out, take a look, and see what guidance you're getting from.
Oh yeah, because you can't clean your entire house at once, right? You got to go room by room, you know, section by section, right?
I mean, even otherwise, if you try to wash all of your clothes at once, you're just going to break your washing machine, right?
Well, that and it when you're looking at that much. And I'm not saying everybody's house is dirty, you know, and stuff like that. But when you're like, if you're like my house, I got like 8 people living here, and there's stuff. I mean, it's not dirty, but there's stuff everywhere. And if I look at my house as a whole, going, oh my gosh, look at this freaking mess, I'm not going to get anything done because it's too overwhelming. You gotta compartmentalize that stuff. Okay, I'm going to start here, and I'm going to make this better. And once that's better, I can move here and I can make this better, and so on and so forth. You know?
Exactly.
So that's really good stuff. I can't, you know, we really didn't dive very far into this, did we? We're gonna have to do a couple more shows on this.
I think so.
we barely scratched the surface. This is great. It's really good stuff. You know, and it's really cool, you know, and you know that, but really, this is where it starts, right? It's got to start in you. You've got to get yourself right. get everything in a line. The way that I was taught to align my chakras, it's actually a physical movement that she had me do. But and to me, it still sounds silly, but I can't argue with the results. But basically, I imagine myself in a sleeping bag, like one of those great big ones, like a mummy sleeping bag, and it's unzipped. And so I have to reach down between my feet, and I pull the zipper up over my head, and it brings everything together that way. That. So I thought that was pretty interesting. So, but
that's cool.
You know,
I like that. Yeah, it's really good. I think there's so many ways. I mean, you know, that we can not one method is going to work for one particular person, right? Nope. And so I think it's really good to, you know, have these different methods. Some people, that was the other thing too. We could talk about this for another 10 hours, I swear to God.
We could.
But, you know, that's the other thing too, is not being open, you know, especially as a reader or somebody who's, you know, in the spiritual practice, not being open to other methods being, you know, being shown or coming through, right? Because not every client is going to be the same. Not every person is going to have the same thing that's going to help them. But, you know, I love shows like this simply because we are sharing those ideas. So on that note, thank you everybody for watching. We will be here next week, and we truly appreciate you guys being here and joining us for the show. Thanks for everything. Goodbye, Trevor. Goodbye, Lynda. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
See ya.